What's up, party people? This is Tarkus Jude Mossberg here from Facebook, Jude's Junk, Facebook Comic Book Shop, YouTube channel, website. And I wanted to bring up an interesting idea. Back in the 60s, the preferred method of preserving comic books was to bind them in a book. And that's if I don't know if you've seen some of these. Apparently, there's a large collection coming up for auction soon. A large collection of these bound books. So maybe you take, Spider-Man 1 through 25 and you put it in a book, right? And you bind it. And that was the preferred method back then. The focus was on preserving it so they could be read. It wasn't necessarily on preserving them for value or condition, but this is back in the 50s and 60s, I think. And so when you bound the book, you put all the comic books on top of each other and you cut the edges. So you basically trim the books, which is making them conserved. So you're ruining the condition of the book. That was one of the preferred methods of preservation back then. And so these books now are all trimmed. So if you took that comic book out of the book, of these new bound books, bound volumes. Sometimes there was holes in them because they had them in a 3-ring binder, but I don't think they would do that in a bound book. They'd probably just use glue on the edge, but they would definitely trim it. So, and now that glue on the edge probably can't come off all the way, so that's probably damaged it. So the point is their preferred method of preservation damaged the book. They had no clue. And I'm wondering, what are we doing today that is the preferred method of preservation that's actually damaging our comic books? Have you thought about this? I cracked a Silver Age 8.0 that was, I believe, a purple label, and it said that there was some gunk on it, and I couldn't see anything on it, so I cracked it. I was just practicing something. It was like a Avengers 51 or something. And it was almost like a booger or a little crusty thing on there, and I flicked it off because that's what gave it a purple label. But other than that, it looked like a gorgeous cover. And so I was hoping it would get like a 9, right? 9.2. Or I was hoping it would lose the blue label by taking off the purple label, by taking off the restored purple label, by taking off that little crusty thing on there. Well, when I got it back, it actually came back at 3.5. And they said the pages were brittle. So when it was in the case, it was probably off-white white. But then when I cracked it out, sent it in, and it came back brittle. Could there be something in the actual plastics of the case? What has changed over the years with these plastics? Could there be something in it that could actually damage the pages, make them more brittle? What about what all this stuff is about people whitening? I don't know if you've heard some of this. People are using some chemicals to whiten the pages to get a higher grade so it'll sell more. What is the long-term effects of those chemicals? Now, CGC finds out that you use those chemicals. They've gotten smart enough where they're like, okay, we're gonna say this is a conserved book or a purple label, I believe. And so a lot of pressers won't even mess with that whole chemical thing because it'll come back a purple label. The pressing. How many times are some of these books getting pressed? I know that there's a danger, especially around the edges where the staple is. The pressing potentially could cause stress on those staples. Or if it's in the case, in the CGC case, if it's just sitting in one of these boxes here, it's no big deal. But what if that book's been mailed back and forth overseas, cross-country, 50 times in the last 10 years? And so all that movement, the outside of the comic book stays still, but the inside potentially could move, and that puts more stress on those staples. I just cracked a 9.9 X-Men 1 because the label was old and I wanted to put a new label in. But I also couldn't tell those 9.9s. I don't know if you've noticed. Someone just asked me about this online. The 9.9s have like a gold coloring and they look faded. So when I bought it on auction, I just thought it was a gold label. But no, when I got it in, it's actually faded. So this comic book cracked a 9.9 and it came back in 8.0. And they said the fading was part of the problem, but that wasn't the biggest part of the problem because it was very light fading and it was just on this, like on the very edge. They said that the whatever was on the side, it cracked the pages near the staple. So it makes me wonder, is there anything we're doing now that is our state-of-the-art conservation techniques that could actually be damaging our comic books? Is there some benefit to letting them, quote, breathe? You know, because some of these books we've been holding on to since the 70s and 80s are still in great condition, and it was just a bag and a board. So I'm curious what you guys think. What are our state-of-the-art preservation techniques today that could actually be hurting our comic books? Just like in the 60s, all the collectors were like, let's spend a lot of money and bound these books to preserve them. And what they did is they damaged them. They'll never be able to be brought back to the condition they were before they trimmed them and glued them in the binding. And so it's an interesting question I bring up. I'm not a presser. I'm not a conservationist. I don't know all the different ways. I know that we do pressing. I know there's erasing. So I have my little eraser, and if it's a white, I'll just erase the marks off, but that wears off paper and maybe even gloss. And, you know, maybe the gloss protects the paper and you wear off that gloss, and now maybe the paper is more susceptible to oxidation damage. I don't even really know what foxing is. I know some of my older books that have been in storage a long time had some foxing and got a bad grade. I don't think it's mold. Mold is different. That stinks. But anyways, if you have any ideas of what we could be doing today that we think is state-of-the-art preservation techniques that might hurt us in 40 years, I'd love to hear those ideas. Because we're looking at short-term gains with all the pressing, with all the cleaning. We're looking to get that bigger grade bump and then sell it. That's not the same as looking to preserve the book to be in the best condition possible for the longest term. So is there anything that we're doing that's actually just for a short-term gain, but is actually going to hurt the condition of the book long-term? Let me know what you think. I thought it was a very interesting scenario. Anyways, happy hunting, guys.